This is the Hohem iSteady Pro. This gimbal is designed for action cameras. It will accept any action camera that's similar to a GoPro, so most of the budget action cameras as well as the GoPros. This is how it arrives. Then inside the box there's a semi-rigid case there. That will definitely provide protection for the gimbal. A set of instructions, USB to micro USB cable, a tripod and the gimbal. There's a little rubber cover there and the micro USB cable just plugs in the side there, and the flashing LED at the top tells you that it's charging. There we go, we've got 4 steady green lights, which means that the battery is now fully charged. On the front control panel we've got the on-off button, the mode button, this is a joystick, we've got the mode LED and the Bluetooth LED. And this is referred to as the hotkey in the manual. It's just a little toggle switch there. One thing that I found really useful with this gimbal is if you look underneath the joystick there, you can see all the operating modes on the gimbal. If we go to the side here, we've got a little rubber cover. We've got a USB port which is labelled DC out and a micro USB port which is labelled DC in. The micro USB port is for charging the gimbal and the USB port is to charge other equipment from the gimbal using the battery that's inside. Also, we've got a 1/4 inch tripod thread there which allows you to connect brackets and various other pieces of equipment to the gimbal. At the bottom of the gimbal there's a tripod thread there for mounting a tripod, and the tripod itself has got rubber feet. It feels pretty strong to me. And then on the mounting bracket we've got a mini USB port that's used to charge the camera whilst it's mounted. So you can actually charge the camera while you're using it. Unfortunately, it's on the wrong side for the GoPro Hero 6 and 5. And then on the other side, we've got the battery indicating LEDs. And at the moment this is switched off, but if you just give this a quick press on the power button, it will indicate what the battery level is without turning the unit on. Now, that 4 is 75% to 100, 3 is 50 to 75, 2 is 25 to 50, and 1 is 0 to 25. Now then, to mount the camera, I've seen most people will actually remove the thumb screws, slide the camera into the bracket and then put the thumb screws back on again. Now I found that if you slacken the thumb screws right off and then just put them back in the bracket there by, I don't know, maybe a 10, just so that they grip, slide the bracket to the end like that and then just slide in the GoPro. And it just jumps in like that, no problem at all. Now it is a really tight fit and then you just need to tighten both thumb screws up. So that is the GoPro mounted. So I'll demonstrate the 4 operating modes of this gimbal. At the moment it's in the default mode, which is pan following mode. Now pan following mode means that the camera will face horizontally outwards and we can turn the base of the gimbal round and you'll notice that the camera will follow that turning motion. So it's moving horizontally left and right, and the tilt, which is when the camera will move up and down, is fixed. So if I move the gimbal you'll see that it remains in that position, pointing horizontally outwards, and the roll is fixed. So I can move the gimbal left and right like this and the camera will stay horizontally in this plane. So that's pan following. Now if I press the mode button twice, it goes into pan and tilt following mode. It will pan the same as it did in the pan following mode, but it will also tilt forwards and backwards. Now if you look now, the camera's pointing directly downwards, and obviously I can bring that right back, vertically upwards, vertically downwards. So the next mode, which is 3 presses of the mode button, is all locked. No matter what you do with the gimbal, the camera will keep pointing where it is. So it's just pointing in that direction and I can twist and move it up and down, left and right, and it will stay in that direction. So that's handy if you just want it fixed on one object but you're moving around. And then the last mode is called all following. If I press it 4 times, it goes into all following mode. Now this means that the camera will follow the gimbal. The pan axis works, it will pan, it will tilt, and the thing that's different about this mode is that it will roll as well. So you can actually turn the camera over 90 degrees. I can imagine that being quite useful. The joystick allows you to move the camera while it's in any mode. So if I push up on the joystick, the camera goes up, down on the joystick the camera goes down, left it pans round to the left, and right it pans round to the right. One more thing that I want to show you that is if you've got it in pan following mode and you have moved the camera using the joystick, if you just flick this toggle switch upwards to F1, it will return it to the horizontal position. If you pull down and keep that toggle switch down in the F2 position, it locks it. As soon as you let go of it, then it flicks back into pan following mode. So I'm going to put that back in the centre, and that's us back to normal now. It's very easy to operate this gimbal. It's actually quite intuitive to use and quite simple. I like the way that they've listed all the modes on the control panel here, so it's easy to remember. You cannot see the mode light very well in sunlight, but it's pretty simple. So long as you make steady presses, then it's quite simple to change the mode, and if you get it wrong, you just press the mode button again to get the mode that you want. The other thing I would like to say is that this gimbal is quite lightweight. It's very plasticky, but saying that, it is fairly solid. There's no issues with it. Fits in the hand nicely. It's very ergonomic to use. So there is an app to allow you to connect a phone or a tablet to the gimbal. As you can see, the phone's found that straight away. Connecting device, click on that. There she is there, the iSteady Pro. So we'll click on that and connect. That was by far the simplest method I've seen of connecting a phone to a gimbal. That was really easy. We can operate the gimbal remotely using the app. The joystick is far too fast, so I'm going to actually try and slow that right down. That's better. And I'm also going to do that for the tilt as well, because that's too quick. So I'm taking it right down to the minimum. Now that is better. I'm much happy with that. And I'm going to leave it like that because I don't want it whizzing around when I'm using the joystick. And then there's more on this as well. There's a user guide, firmware information. One thing that confused me with this gimbal was the fact that the Bluetooth light wasn't on and I couldn't figure out how to turn it on. So I think that the Bluetooth is permanently on the gimbal, and as soon as the gimbal detects that it's connected to the app, it turns this LED on. Right, so this is a GoPro in the gimbal. The GoPro stabilization is on, so it's got electronic image stabilization, and it's also got the stabilization of the gimbal. If you watch the background as I'm walking along, you can see exactly what one of these gimbals does. Right, so I've taken the camera image stabilization off, and this is the gimbal alone. And then this is the GoPro in my hand with no image stabilization. So I'm basically just carrying it. Now I think you'll be able to hear the difference on the sound because you can't hear the motor noise in the background. And one thing I will say is there is motor noise on this gimbal, but it's far less than the other gimbals that I've got. So I'm going to film myself running now with image stabilization off on the GoPro, just relying on the gimbal. So this is the Econ H9R Plus, just to let you guys see what the gimbal will do with this camera. So it's obvious from the video that I've just shown you that this gimbal is capable of smoothing out action camera video. I think that if you use this gimbal with a GoPro that's actually got image stabilization running, the video is very smooth and looks very professional. If you remove the video stabilization off the GoPro and just rely on the gimbal, then it's pretty good. The results are pretty good and certainly acceptable as far as I'm concerned. The fact that you can hardly hear the motor noise is a real plus as well as far as this gimbal goes. 10 hours of battery life as well. So if you're fed up of your action camera producing shaky video and you want to actually dip your toes into the world of gimbals without spending too much money, then you should certainly consider this. I think it is quite capable of producing good results. So I hope you found this useful and thank you for watching.